So I'm writing a book, and I got a note back from my coach on some pages, and her note was, when you are at your most succinct, you are at your most successful as far as writing and reaching the writer is concerned. And that brings me back to the thing that keeps coming up for me is simplicity. So I think sometimes intentionally overcomplicate things because then the distraction has an excuse, right? Because I need to make things so overly layered that I don't really have to dig down to the truth because the truth is almost always quite simple. So yesterday, I got some news about my health, about just and it basically pointed to the fact that it was underlining the fact that I equate effort, not just effort. I equate grinding myself into the ground with that's almost the sense of achievement in itself. Meaning that it's not even like I'm busting to the finish line, I'm just busting. And I don't know who I think I have to prove that to. Obviously, somebody. Because I think what's happening to me is that in this guise of effort, I am probably rushing past things that are trying to just be simply delivered to me because I didn't actively excavate them. I didn't use a pickaxe to get to them. So then how can they be worthwhile? When I know that that's not true. So what this really means is that I continue to live this lie of not enough. Because if I was really enough, I would be able to understand that I just naturally put in a more than a good effort. I naturally want, I'm a seeker. I want to know. And left to my own devices, I will know without this pressure that I feel is like necessary to put on myself. And it goes back to, if I am not successful in doing, I can't possibly be successful in being. And I keep being taught this lesson over and over, and yesterday's lesson came through in my body. So, no dire diagnosis, but just something to think about the fact that there is a pattern within me where I am needlessly stressing out my heart. Now, this follows probably across every single plane of my existence. And it also leads back to a lie that I tell about if things aren't intense, they're not real. That's such an immature view. And it's a view that I held for years. That if something isn't deep, it has to be like agitated. It can't be deep and still. Meanwhile, I know that kind of quiet, still point and wisdom is when I'm in the flow. I'm fighting with myself about achievement, but I'm my own worst enemy to that end, to get to that place of production and achievement. So today I'm going to ask you to look at the paradox of striving. I'm not even going to call it effort because effort is showing up. And I'm not saying you should just show up and punch the clock. That's so the opposite of me and everything that I stand for. However, there is a difference between striving, pushing so hard, and allowing things to come to you. I'm telling you, in my striving, I am brushing things away that are trying to be just delivered to me. My own effort is diluting my efforts. And it comes back to thinking that I'm enough. That is the simple truth. And it's one that I hide, that the lie of it, that I am not enough, gets hidden in this massive effort. So here's my challenge for you today to look at. I want you to, especially if you're someone that pushes hard. Again, I'm all for going for what you want. If you're sitting on the sidelines, you're not my people. If you are taking steps just because you have this thirst and this inquiry, in whatever way that means, I'm there. Like, that's exactly what I'm all about. But I'd like to ask you, are you able to do the subtle work? To let the things within you rebuild and reweave. And I have to also say that my overarching superlative effort is probably undoing some of the subtle neural pathways that are trying to be woven in a new way. It takes repetition, it takes reps, but it also takes a certain amount of grace and quiet. So that is the lesson that I'm taking away from the past couple of days. That until that I can truly be enough today, right now, I'll never get to where I want to be. I've talked about ruthless self-compassion. Now I'm going to talk about ruthless, passionate love for yourself in all of its guises. Because that is courageous. And I'm not saying just love the shiny parts. You got to love the shameful parts too. But I ask you not to hide. And I do challenge you to look at the simplest truth. Keep asking why. And the next layer, why? And the next layer, why? And the next layer, why? And it's always something that's almost always from your childhood that you've carried. Just naming it is so powerful. And that is what I bless you with today. And I will see you tomorrow.